Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Venus RX. It's Lacey. This is where I talk about topics that are on my mind right now, usually involving the supernatural or esoteric topics, even cosmic knowledge, and all of those things. Where I started out at was giving you some background of where I was born, which was Central Jersey, aka Weird New Jersey, just like the books. This is my first time talking just to talk, or this channel is my first time talking just to talk. Bear with me, I will jump around. What we were getting into last time is not just the supernatural occurrences in New York that in New Jersey, rather, that happened my entire life. I also wanted to talk about what it was like to transition over from weird New Jersey into weird New York and how New York and especially the Bronx seems to have its own supernatural occurrences, involving a lot of Santeria magic in the Botanicas, lots of love spells, lots of women would tell you things like, put his name in a jar of honey, or write his name and put it in your shoe, and that way you guys will cross paths. Like that's how you manifest the guy you like. Even down to girls freezing guys sperm and putting it on a candle. This would be the place where I landed at. If you check some of my last videos out, I was talking about being released into the Bronx from Manhattan. And that's another thing. I kind of moved around from borough to borough in New York City. How did I get to New York City from Weird, New Jersey? The Good Shepherds people, which were religious groups. And, how I was at a hotel. My mom was passing away. She was sick with cancer. I had to figure out something to do. We didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have a place to stay. And I literally Googled what to do when your life is falling apart. I found some people called Good Shepherds. I called the Good Shepherds people, and I'm like, yo, like, I'm not gonna lie, and cried to them. Like, I'm like, and they told me to just let it fall apart, just come over to New York, come over to them, and whatever and whatnot. So I got a ride to New York from with my ex and his friend. They dropped me off at Path after, I went to the Good Shepherd people, and then I ended up getting checked into Path. This is where I wanted to talk about the gangs of New York City. As I see Donald Trump deporting the Venezuelan gangs, Trendiagua, and them talking about gangs and how they force people to join gangs. I'm going to talk about my experience with gangs. I joke and say I had to escape Slaughter Gang. I'm like, this is how I escaped Slaughter Gang. And basically, I wanted to tell you how they do go about trying to enlist people in gangs. And I didn't, it wasn't that serious of an escape, but let's put it like this. And it's not necessarily Slaughter Gang. Slaughter Gang don't come for me. But I'm gonna just tell people that basically this is how I know the difference between a fake thug and a real thug. I always think about that Little Kim line, that show love just like a real thug do. And that's what they kind of will do. Path, getting into Path, oh, it's brutal. Like, they might check you in one place. You might stay there for a couple of days. And then out of nowhere, boom, 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 you got to get out. They're handing you papers. And this is what happened to me. I was in Brooklyn, I believe. Brooklyn, King's Towers, when I got kicked out and resent back to the Bronx, and where I was crying too, because like Path will make you throw away your groceries. You can't bring food inside. So a lot of us, after those 10 days, we settled. A lot of us don't have EBT or any sort of SNAP yet. So, that food is like my last food. Like, I'm like, and I got to throw it out, and then you got to sit there for like hours. It gets deep. This is why I kind of checked out a lot of these like stories. I'm like, let me revisit it since it's been years. I'm healed enough to talk about it without getting, oh. And so, oh goodness. And I'll tell you about That okay. So number one, you don't got no food. Number two, they're like, I ain't gonna house you because it says you got an aunt somewhere in California. We'll give you plane tickets to go to California if you can contact that aunt. And you're like, wait, what aunt? I know aunt in California, nigga. They don't want they don't want you utilizing the system because and then also what I found out a lot of girls lie to get their apartment and whatnot. And I guess that's why they go so brutal, but it's no excuse, you know? They're not supposed to do you like how they do you. And this is how people like, you know, the people, gangs or our cults even, because let's be real, there's like Mormons, hey, come to church with us this Sunday. I'm like, I think about how many people got kidnapped by religious cults. I ended up with religious people too, like a Catholic church, like a lot. Okay, get to the gangs and how they operate. I'm crying and whatnot. And some girl comes up to me and she got her little baby in a stroller. She's like, "What's going on? Blah 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 blah. Come down the street. I'll get you pizza. Blah 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 blah." They got me pizza and whatnot, and then you know, like, of course, a guy gonna come up. And this is another thing. They not gonna come up. Oh, hey, join the gang. Putting the gun to your head or something. Yeah, they're going to give you what you need, and then not only that, took me to like an abandoned building. These abandoned buildings aren't like bandos. Well, it kind of is, but a lot of them, like they stripped it down. They re did it. Like they redid it up, hooked up the lights, the electricity. There's running water in the buildings. There's a bunch of different apartments and whatnot. The only thing is that they got exposed piping from when they like, you know, rigged up like the water so to make the water run again and whatnot. And basically that's what they do. They'll take you there. They'll who give you a place to stay. You get a place to stay. Gave me some blankets, gave me some food, gave me some clothes and what not clothes. They did not give me some clothes. I had my own clothes to be there and whatnot. I definitely ended up staying there for some time, but it was a lot of different people in and out that building. There was definitely all types of cells and deals going on that I didn't necessarily want to be a part of. I feel somebody saying don't snitch, don't snitch, but either way, like you know, I think they're okay because these were Americans, these were like African Americans, and I can remember somebody else knocking on my door to get middle of the night, giving me some more food and some blankets because the mattress was like it was just the box spring. They took out the mattresses because they're like, sorry, yo, we took out the mattresses because of bed bugs and stuff like that. And they took out all the mattresses that was there. So they gave me mad blankets to lay down like over the box spring. And then I just kind of slept like that. So that's another thing. I wasn't fully prepared for that lifestyle. Here somehow I got back into the system here, but okay, so yeah, I kind of wanted to get on that. So that's kind of how a gang would go about like initiating somebody. I'm like, they wouldn't come in, try to threaten you, bully you. I'm like, every time somebody tries that, I'm like, you're soft and you don't got nobody. A gang is very nice. The leaders are usually they not gonna make you pay. They wouldn't have made me pay back that food until I got situated, and I don't know how they would have made me try to pay back for that food, that apartment, whatever. I probably would have just had to do works with them, like any types of works. Who knows? Here, that being said, let me pause for a second. Okay. Okay, so from there, you know, I guess I was thankful to have somewhere to stay. In the meantime, in the between time, I was not sleeping on the subway. So, like, shout out to Slaughter Gang. Let me stop saying that because you know their theme song is stuck in my head from that's that Slaughter Gang, that murder gang, and shit. So that sticks out to me, and then this is kind of like resonant to what the people kind of look like to me. I'm not gonna lie, but that being said, I ended up in Manhattan, and I already told you in my last video what happened when I was in Manhattan. I was only in Manhattan for maybe like a couple of months, 3 months. It couldn't have been that long because I know when my mom actually passed away, because this time she was like dying of cancer, sick in a hospital. I had my breakdown, and that's when they moved me back to the Bronx. But I was still visiting in the Bronx. I dated the guy that lived in the Bronx, and I still was hanging around the thugs. I'm not gonna lie. And a lot of people, they probably wouldn't believe me. I act like I don't know a lot of them now because they got like things got a little heavy. And then this is kind of why I became a to myself person. I'm not even going to touch on all of that. We're going to jump back into the supernatural. That I'll have to rewrite that story as supernatural to digest it and to hide what went on with it. I wouldn't like hide like the names. Not that these stories I wouldn't tell, but in interest of these people that aren't necessarily bad people. So not to say that there aren't bad gangs and those foreign gangs. I don't know about them, but that's a lot how they will get you. They're going to be kind. That's how they do. I seen on the news, and I was surprised Donald Trump knew that. I'm like, but why would he not know that? I'm like, how do you know? Like yeah, they take advantage of people. And then Cash Jordan said that. I'm like, yo, how did you guys know? Like, like when they're down and out, like they would be right outside the path looking for people that path kicked out, all types of gangs, like around in the area. That's what they're looking for too. All types of people who are going to rely on them and whatnot. And I guess, ended up in comfort and reliance, and nothing too bad happened. I was not harmed. I moved out of harm's way. I've seen other people that I grew a liking to get harmed. I can't say these are people I love. These are people who showed love like real thugs do. All right. But okay, getting to landing into the place that I landed in the Bronx after getting leaving the mental institution. I told you about Bronx, Lebanon, and the Quiet Corner, and how they got basically people who are possessed there. I kind of indicated that in the last video that these people weren't like regular people. You could type in subway possession, like New York City subway possessed, and you'll see different people who are like that. There's one video where there's like some chick and then she like looks possessed. These people look like that, and like so just so you know, that's where they end up taking a lot of those possessed people. I don't know if it's still like that anymore. If you're curious, they take them somewhere. These are a lot different than the people who are screaming at the pole and whatnot and talking to themselves. Those people aren't in my ward either. Ironically enough, people in my ward were people who were like members, and maybe they were transitioning out of, like, I don't know, thuggery, or I don't even know. Some of these people, I don't know. Similar life stories, I guess. But that being said, I touched down into like an all women's shelter and whatnot. And this was in the Bronx, and it had Jamaican security guards. It was a heavy Jamaican background. I don't know why I involved race. I guess I just like to give people some sort of imagination to what's going on there. Huh. And I don't even know how to get into it because I got to conceptualize it. Like I said, chicks was coming at me with all types of magic. Oh, you got the eye on you, before I actually even had the eye on you. And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like you're psychic, you're intuitive. Because I'm like, people, like I was saying back in my last video, people have a tendency to tell me that, yeah, you're psychic. Like after a while, they'll just me, I bet, you know? But they like, you got the eye on you and whatnot. And I could remember somebody wanting me to help do a spell to like get their ex back. I can remember agreeing to do a 3-part spell with me, another girl. I'm pausing to avoid saying their names. If you're wondering why I'm like, because I didn't think to make up different names. I'm like, let's get it, let's go. I'll redefine these stories. We gotta get some of this stuff out here. um, yeah, we did like some sort of three-part money spell. I can remember that too. And money, beauty, all of that. I remember I asked for a new apartment. I'm like, I want a new apartment. I want it to be safe. We frequented a Botanica. I'll tell you where that's at. A Botanica on Webster Avenue in the Bronx. It was one of the largest Botanicas. But I should tell you what a Botanica did on like, I think I was like by Kingsbridge. Grand Concourse was the first Botanica. I walked in alone and I'm like, what is this? I'm like, this is a little craft store similar to me going to New Orleans. I went to college for a little while in Baton Rouge. I went to Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I would catch the $5 mega bus to New Orleans, and they have witch shops there too. Again, whole different story. That's why you got to check in with me. I got all supernatural for my whole entire life. I've always been into the esoteric, and always been, gifted. I don't know. That being said, I had walked into the Botanica because I had seen the triangles there, and it looked like Jesus in one of the triangles. I'm like, what is this? What is that? I was like, I think I want this. This prayer thing. It looked like Jesus with coins around it. And they're like, yeah, I'll do it. You want me to bless it for you? And then yeah, they gave me a blessing and they blessed it, for me and whatever, and they did some sort of blessing. And then I dropped my change in the change thing. They had some sort of, it looked like Aunt Jemima, a mom. I called them mame or mame statues. I think that's what they called them, the mame statues. I don't know, but it looked like a chocolate woman. I don't, because I'm not gonna say African American because that could be, I don't know, dark skinned Puerto Rican as far as I know. Like, I like, I'm like, this is like Spanish owned. Either way, I guess this is where I first met a broha. This is my broha there. And then he directed me like to put change in there afterwards, and I put change in there afterwards. I'm not sure if this helped me or saved me for like what was coming next. Also, like a lot of girls seeing me do it, I felt like they wanted to like do it and join in too and whatnot. But I did the scariest thing here is is well, one of my neighbors across the street from me swore the place was haunted by somebody named Samantha. I didn't feel no hauntings in that building, even doing magic and whatnot. I didn't feel no haunting, and this story isn't even just my story. How about that? It was some other girls that I used to smoke cigarettes with. We go grocery shopping with, look for jobs, apply, whatever. We weren't doing nothing too bad. It wasn't wilding out outside of the magic and whatnot. But this girl, I felt like I walked in the room one day. I walked into her room, tap tap tap, because that into their common area, and one of the girls was saging the room. They were saging all around. They were saging everybody's door. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? I'm like, and then she's like, the girl that came here. All right. Did you see the new girl that just came in? Yeah, she was, what the heck? They said she was having an argument on the phone, and she's like, "Stop, Keith! Get out, Keith!" Blah 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 blah, yelling. And then we were like, "What the heck is going on?" Because first they said they thought the argument was like with her man or whatnot, until she started yelling for him to get out, and then that person didn't get out. They were like, "Wait, did she sneak a guy in here?" I gotta get my hold on. Okay, so I'm trying to get it together because about three of us ended up in a hospital at around that time after this entity had a do. And then I'm like, why are you're saved? And they're like, it was no Keith and blah blah blah. And then they're like, I felt it. I don't know what spirit that is, but I felt it. I felt it. And I looked over at the one I would consider the more honest one because this one was problematic. Oh God, I ain't believe nothing that girl said. Heavily attention seeking. That being said, I was like, are you telling the truth? Is that what happened? I was like, and then she's like, yeah, yeah, it was somebody named Keith, or whatnot. And this is scary. This gets scary, scary because my ex he's from the Bronx, but he lived in New Jersey, but he dropped me back to the Bronx. the original ex that told me that that was a demon that I met Pan and whatnot. And whatnot. I still didn't believe it. I didn't believe it until I was laying in the bed, and then I went to get up to go use the bathroom, right, in the middle of the night. And then I stepped on the floor. The floor felt warm as I'm starting to get to the door. And then it felt like the whole door, my bedroom door, felt warm as heck. I'm like, why does this feel so warm? Like it felt like just body heat coming off of my door. And then I touched the doorknob and the doorknob was warm. I almost didn't want to open it. I thought there was somebody like waiting outside of my door and whatnot. And oh God, oh God. That being said, I had started to, I lit some candles and some things to get the entity out of my room. And this is before I discovered binaural beats and isochronic tunes. I came over to my neighbor's place and they were saying the same thing. Did y'all feel that? It's like, yo, like I swear it's haunted in here. It was two of them, like, yo, like we keep feeling some spirit. Like she's like, I forgot her story, but it was about her door keep coming open and whatnot. They're like, look, I don't know. They showed me something with the door. Again, it didn't really, I was trying not to feed it because that's what my mom used to say when we lived in like New Jersey and we had supernatural happening. They were like, just don't feed it. And it never really bothered me until I was laying down alone and whatnot. Okay. But, whew, whew, oh goodness. This little entity, outside of harassing us until like that neighbor, she ended up in the hospital with like I guess like just psychosis and whatnot. Me, I ended up in the hospital with eclampsia and anxiety from this entity. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. This the boom, 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 the heart yo, I was having like heart palpitations, and I thought I was going to have an asthma attack. I had took myself to the hospital thinking I was going to have an asthma attack, and that's when they told me it's no asthma attack. They did the EKGs and all of that. They said my brain was lit up like a Christmas tree, and that I was experiencing a lot of anxiety, and not just like any anxiety, also like at cigarettes, eclampsia. That's what I blamed it on. Like mild fainting, but apparently that could develop not just eclampsia, can develop fainting out of like fear, having too much fear and too much anxiety to the point where you want to pass out. You just don't want to be awake. You're under fear right now. This is what seemed to be going on with other people. That person, psychosis. Somebody else ended up in a hospital. Similar thing. They were sick and they thought it was an asthma attack, but it turned out not. They lungs collapsed. Her lungs collapsed or something like that. She ended up in the hospital. It might have been four of us too. I told her that was the weed. I was like, they was putting something in the weed around there, and that made the lungs collapse. I'm making up these reasons all along until I finally heard that junk, like felt that junk. Because once I was released to the hospital and they gave me more pills, oh, I already had a diagnosis by then, and this is why I feel like it was easier for them to, I don't know, but it was nothing wrong. They were like, your lungs are okay. It's not asthma and whatnot. So I had anxiety pills, to take around that time. I no longer take anxiety pills. And it did not work, but it made me relaxed enough to face what was going on. I realized I wasn't going to get help until I kind of looked online. I looked online and I found a psychic too, because this entity was like, oh my goodness, I found a psychic online, and it might have just been on Facebook and whatnot. It's funny to be a psychic on YouTube now, yeah, like on Rosa Venus Tarot. But this one lady that I found, I'm like, we were giving each other psychic advice in some sort of forum on Facebook and whatnot. And she told me to try to talk to the entity. The best thing to do would be to talk to the entity and ask the entity why it's here and what it's doing and whatnot. And this entity called me by the name Lacey. It called me Lacey too. That junk went boom, like yo, on the back of my bed while I was sleeping. I can remember sleeping, and this is, whew, like yo, because I was sleeping and I was laying down like in the middle of the night. And I pulled a blanket off of me because my bed got real warm like as fuck, to the point it was like hot enough for me to wake up and feel around. Like, what's going on? Why is this junk so warm? And I'm like, whatever, I'm gonna go back to sleep. And then I felt boom, and I heard Lacey, and it said Lacey. Like, yeah, I'm like, what? And then I finally asked it what it wanted. And I talked to the demon, and I basically, I talked to the demon. I told him like, oh, it asked me what did I want and what did I want it to do and whatnot. I feel bad. I'm not even going to say what went on from then, but I just told the entity to go and get my enemies for me, I guess. I was like, and then I remember them like kind of just leaving. Like, after that, I didn't really experience anything with that entity or nothing too supernatural that I can remember. I think I did. Yeah, I got my apartment, a new apartment, because I said new one. I'm like these fresh buildings and whatnot. I was like, I want it to be safe, blah, 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 blah. And but before that happened, whew, after that, my ex came and showed up to come and see me, and then he had tattoos before, but he had now the Star of Venus on his hand, the pentagram on his hand. He had more um, tattoos like my sleeve here and like the other entity Pan that I had met in New Jersey. Okay. Yeah, all right. So I had thought that maybe he was trying to like maybe like I don't know compete with the other demon guy. He wanted to be like be cool, like I don't know, because he had asked me if the other guy was bigger. It's I don't know. But that being said, I remember I remember his Star of Venus. I remember going like that and then touching it for whatever reason. And then he said, watch, something really good is going to happen. And then something really bad is going to happen. And then and that was like the last time we spoke. That was the last time we spoke before he passed away. He went missing for like a month, but I believe we got into an argument. I wasn't talking to him. I remember his mother and father calling me and whatnot. And I don't think I even answered their messages. I'm not gonna lie, I answered their messages. I didn't answer their texts or calls around that time period. Only time I answered is when he called me. When his father called me, I was like, all right, like his father called me. And then I picked up the phone and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And then he said, yeah, he's dead. And because I was going to say his name, and then he said my ex is dead. He told me my ex was dead. I said, "Oh my God, are you serious? Are you serious?" He said, "Yes," and I have to go right now, Lacey. Okay. And then hung up the phone. I'm like, yo, here, I dropped to my knees. I'm like, yo, my ex is dead. I sat there like, yo, for a minute because I'm like, yo, that was my first love. That was when I realized that I might have cared about that guy. I'm like, that was my friend. I'm like, I thought we would be able to work it out, but that's neither here nor there. The scariest thing is, this is about a month later, but going back, yeah, okay. So fast forward to him being found maybe like a month or so later, and he was found upstate New York. Just to let you know where his body was found, he was found upstate New York in a facility after going crazy too. That's another important thing I should note. After he visited me in the facility, and he ended up in a facility of his own. This is when I already told people he was a little crazy, but this is when he really lost it and he ended up like upstate to get some help or whatnot. I remember talking to him maybe not too long after he left me. And I remember like I couldn't even really talk to him. He was like not really there. Like I don't know how to explain it. And that's when we got into our argument. But that's when I kind of realized, like, he wasn't really there. This is emotional stuff to me. This is stuff that's been buried deep, just so you know. Air Ripley's Believe It or Not. So, like I said, I'm trying to touch on it without, touching the emotion of it, and, kind of skip through it. Yeah, so they couldn't find his body. They left his body rotted out for like 37 days. But the last thing that this man posted on Facebook, and it's still there, last thing this man posted before he passed away, and I looked at the death certificate, was he said, I don't know what type of entity just spoke into my ear, but I think his name was Keith. And then I see people, oh, I hope you're okay. Oh man, dang, bah. Like, at the end, like this, but they didn't start commenting on that until it was like after he was found, like 37 days later. But his last text, and that was his last post on Facebook, was, I don't know what type of entity just spoke into my ear, but I think his name was Keith. I didn't tell him anything about Keith in the shelter, and the other girl was screaming, "Get out, Keith, and blah, 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 blah." I didn't ask the entity name that spoke to me, but I saw a visual of the entity through my mind's eye when I was about to open the door. And I used to say, please don't show yourself to me. Please don't like show yourself to me, because I already knew that it would cause me a boom, boom, like, yo, I'm like, I don't want to see it. Like, yeah, but I could see it had like Maleficent horns. It looked like some sort of male Maleficent character, except for like, I don't know how to explain it. Not like, but its horns was like shaped like that. Like, I don't know. And I could only see like the darkness of the figure. I didn't see the face, nothing else. It showed me just briefly, and I could see it was tall. It was like maybe like about the same size of my door, that entity and whatnot. Oh, yeah. Who? But yes, he said that. Like, and that's what got me, because him and the crazy girl too. Get out, Keith. And then thinking it was her boyfriend, and that being such a name for a demon. I keep trying to research to find a demon or an entity named Keith, or if that was just the devil, because the only thing I could think about is how and why they couldn't find his body. I'm like, Keith Sweat, astral project, nobody. I didn't think about it until I heard that song. Who can love you like me? Nobody. And it was by Keith Sweat. I hear that song way differently, like than a lot of people, because like nobody, and they couldn't find his body. And that's another thing I was going to try to say. How it's like, and when I ended up in central bookings, your life after aiming forward, your life after tragedy. This is another thing that I first discussed astral projection, because somebody had talked about how it's like they blacked out, and they're like, nah, it's not just like you blacked out, like your soul left your body. And then the counselor said, that's not true, don't tell people these things, your soul can't leave your body. And then she got mad. She's like, it is. That's what happens. Your soul leaves your body. I'm like, I could concur, because I tried to do some sort of money spell. Once my life got regular, it just wasn't regular enough. And then it seemed like some entity grabbed me and threw me up in the air, and then hopped in my body. And then I went about doing some wild-ish hair. And then I ended up locked up. And then I ended up having to take counseling in central bookings, your life after tragedy, aiming forward. A lot of people would, no, not a lot of people would say I'm crazy. A lot of people will know. And like, and then I was going to get into spiritual transcendent psychology. And like, there's a channel called Bipolar Awakening, and they kind of explain that really well. about, and then it's called New Approach to Psychology. The voices are real, meaning that even if you didn't believe in Keith, it might be more helpful to you to take down your fear and talk to Keith. Tell Keith to leave. That like that other lady opened the door. Get out, Keith. Yeah, she was smart to do that. They were smart to start saging. They just felt like she was crazy, but not too. She crazy for arguing with it that hard. Other one in the hospital, me, I didn't get peace until I finally faced it, and then it also caused me other psychic trips. Like so, it can pull you in and out of time. Like I'm gonna, it's another horror story about me dating when that entity was attached to me, and it was called the girl with the candle. I went on a date with somebody and I had a candle lit like on my dresser, like or just there. He's like, I'm gonna tell a horror story about the girl with the candle. And then what I saw on the subway afterwards, it felt like I walked into a parallel universe or just, I don't even know, possibly passed away that night. It's like so many layers to these stories, and a lot of things can happen back to back. Maybe it is me. We get bored. I'm like, oh, because I had too much peace when I moved to this place, and I'm like, let me do it. I did. That's when I was disembodied. I did the intro to Belly with DMX lit the dollar. He's like, I sold my soul to the devil, and the price was cheap. I did that, but I did it, I guess, the correct way. And I found how to do it. And a lot of it has to do with Nubis Ador Seclorum, New World Order, and the New World Order. And I only got halfway through that junk before I came out of my bonnet running naked to the lobby, and I wasn't on drugs. And I'm like, whoo, I don't even know how to explain that. Like that drug, I thought somebody hexed me until I realized I was the one putting that in. It's like a total. Whew. I'm going to also get into the third eye mirror meditation, and that's something that I could teach you guys, a supernatural trick. And along the lines of Bloody Mary, these are just things, I'm going over because, I'm about to end it here. I guess I did talk enough, but yeah, Keith might have killed my ex. He might have been killed by a demon, or that was somebody from like the body hopping CIA that I might have sold my soul to or made a soul contract with, a solar contract with the star of Venus. The star of Venus, if you look that up, is Lucifer. And if you look up Luciferianism, that's the planet, that's a belief in all of the supernatural figures and happenings that surrounded the planet Venus, and and it's involved in a lot of religions, down to, I believe, Halal means the star of Venus, and I was going to discuss the Jersey drones and its connections with Allah, and Muhammad's take on when he saw those lights looking up over Jesus and whatnot. But I've worked and I've talked a lot during my tarot readings. So that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching and giving me an ear. Hit the like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps your girl grow. Maybe I could get these stories animated or something one day. We got the AI, and that would be good to do. Maybe I get some help with that if this page blows up, get monetized. But that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.